everybody. Randy Patterson here again with Boomerocity. You know, as I've said before, if you've heard very many of my interviews, especially with people that you may not be aware of, I love turning you on to new up and coming artists, especially from the younger generation, because who else is going to carry the mantle of great music? And I think one of the people that you're about to listen to on this interview, Abby Litman, she is, I think, the modern day Joni Mitchell or Joan Baez. In fact, those are two of her influences, as well as many others that come back from the old 60s and 70s folk era. When I asked her what genre she would put her music in, she actually said probably modern or contemporary folk. I said new folk. It all fits in together, and she does it quite well. When I heard the samples of her music, fell in love with it immediately. It did take me back to the 60s and 70s. I was a little kid then, but still remember that music coming out from that era. And Abby does an amazing job with picking up the mantle and the torch and moving forward and carrying that genre forward, but yet with a new sound, with a new touch to it that lets us know that this is something new and fresh. So I had a delightful talk with her. She was in LA and I was here in the Smoky Mountains. We had a fabulous chat and found out more about her influences, what else she does. And I think you're going to find that just like I did when I first heard her music, you're going to really love this girl and her work. So without any further ado, here's my first interview with Abby Litman. Until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerocity. Take care.
Hey,
Hello, Abby. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you
I
for.
am doing fantastic. Where are you dialing in from?
I'm in LA.
LA. Oh, where it never rains, right?
We just got a ton of rain.
Well, see, I'm dating myself. There's that ancient song from when I was probably 10 years younger than you probably are now. And it was the song, I forget who sang it, but it never rains in Southern California. So,
Oh,
I grew up in Arizona, so it never rained there either. So,
okay. Yeah, doesn't rain that often, but we just
nope.
got a ton of rain,
All
which is
right.
good.
So, how's the post-pandemic world treating you these days?
Um, I feel like it's kind of a good time right now. In the as a musician, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like everyone's just like trying to play all the time. There's so much going on. Um, yeah, I feel like there's a lot happening, and people are pretty like excited to, you know, be out and with each other. So it's good. So still feel the effects of, the pandemic and all that, but
In what way?
probably like socially maybe the most. It feels like I'm sort of like rebuilding my, community a little bit because a lot of people left, you know, everything just got smaller. Like I feel like my social scene got smaller. So just trying to like get myself back out there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, definitely been like having to make like conscious decisions to do that. Whereas before it was more just like I didn't
Just
have to think about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are you finding crowds are that same way as well?
Um, I don't think so. I feel like I went to a show last night and it was like packed. Um, for the most part, I feel like people are excited to be out and see music.
Yeah, that's the way it is out here. I'm in East Tennessee, and
Yeah.
everybody's, whether it's local groups, local independent artists, or cover bands, or big time concerts, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Everybody's chomping at the bit to get back to normal, and that's a good sign, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, tell Boomerocity viewers about yourself, because I know you do have a following there in LA, but we want to make that following bigger, and we do have a little bit of a global reach. So
Mhm.
tell the viewers about yourself.
Yeah. Well, I am a singer-songwriter, guitar player in LA, but I'm from Maryland originally and kind of fell in love with folk music when I was when I was in high school. Started writing a lot of poetry and listening to like, all the classic folk singers. And yeah, and decided to go to music school in LA. And that's kind of what kickstarted, I guess, my career. I love reading poetry. My favorite poet is Edna St. Vincent Millay.
Hmm.
And some of my like favorite, you know, musicians, definitely Joni Mitchell for like her lyric writing and melodies and everything pretty much. I love Joan Baez. Yeah, and I also do a lot of like art and I illustrate my songs. I made my artwork for my music. Yeah, I just love all things creating and especially writing and playing songs.
It almost sounds from the influences you've mentioned that you might have been born a generation or two later than you should have been, right?
And that's possible. Yeah.
Just a little bit. So,
Yeah. I
so,
know.
I mean, do you ever find yourself wanting to drive through like Laurel Canyon or something?
Yeah, I do that quite a bit. It's definitely a lot of traffic now. I don't
Yeah.
think it's as, enjoyable as it was once. But I do love going out to Topanga Canyon, and that has like that sort of vibe and feels a little older and slower over there, which is really nice and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So,
It's been a while since I've been in Southern Cal. I've been in either Texas or here in East Tennessee. And so it's been quite a few years. So I'm sure it's changed a lot since I was out there last. But have you had a chance to meet any of your influencers? You mentioned Joan and Joni. Have you
mhm.
met them? Have you seen them perform? Anything like that?
Um, I'm super excited. I never thought I would see Joni perform, but I'm actually going to see her in Seattle or in Washington, I'm pretty sure, in the summer. She's performing with I'm blanking on her name, but the same person that she performed with like at the award show and everything. But so I'm going to see Joni Mitchell. She's a country singer. Do you know who I'm talking about? I'm
I
blanking
was
on
going
her.
to say Lady Gaga. I thought they performed together, but I don't recall who she recorded or
Um,
performed with earlier this year, but I
it's
remember
a
hearing something about it. I just can't remember the name.
Yeah. So I'm really, really excited to see her. I just never thought, I thought she stopped performing.
Yeah.
I've seen Bob Dylan a few times.
Really? Now, see, I haven't even seen him. I'd love to see him.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen him maybe a couple times in LA. One of my favorite songwriters, Laura Marling, who she's, still doing it. She's not. But I've seen her play a bunch. Got to meet her once when she was living in LA.
Mhm.
But yeah, Bob Dylan was pretty huge for me.
He was a big influence on me when I was in high school. I went through my guitar playing phase. And I haven't progressed much from those days, but loved his work and especially his lyric writing. Yeah, just to be so unique and trippy with his wordsmithing and such. And
Hmm.
even as I got older and he went into his Christian music phase, I was amazed at how articulate he could be in making those big swings from protest to faith. And
Hmm.
it's still, I mean, he's still a great prolific writer and
Yeah.
very intuitive and that type of thing. um so tell me about your new EP. I've listened to it. First of all, what genre would you place yourself in if you were to do
Hmm.
that?
I don't know if this is a genre, but maybe I'd say contemporary folk.
Hmm, that makes
Mhm.
sense. Yeah.
Because I feel like there are a lot of us that are like really inspired by sort of like the 60s, 70s folk music,
Hmm.
but and even like, Americana or bluegrass, but our music doesn't necessarily sound immediately like that.
Right.
But it has a lot of those, like maybe not like in the traditional way, but it has a lot of those elements.
Hmm.
So yeah, I wouldn't call myself like Americana, but I feel like, yeah, more of like a modern spin on folk music.
Or new folk. They say new country, so maybe new folk is
Oh, okay.
the way.
Yes.
Make up the label and own it, copyright it, and you can always make
Yeah.
money from that. So
True.
So about your EP, tell me the story behind that and how long it took to put that together. You teamed up with some pretty good talent on there, so tell viewers about it.
Yeah. So the one I think you have on your background that's still on my mind,
Mm-hmm.
which is sort of like a reimagined version of an EP I put out over the summer called On My Mind.
Mm-hmm.
And those songs pretty much came together over the pandemic. And I feel like the general theme of them is just like trying to find like, you know, my own way in like the world and, kind of growing as a person on my own. And then a drummer that I work with, his name's John Fathom in LA. I started playing these songs with him in the fall, and he just like, I don't know, he has such a good vibe, I guess, and just kind of transformed them and made them feel kind of like reborn. Or I feel like the original versions are a bit bigger and like more studio. um they feel like more of like a production, whereas these ones are a lot more stripped down, or just feel like you kind of get to like the root of the song a little bit more. So I just thought that was really cool, and we pretty easily were able to just knock out these recordings because it was um, me, him, and he has some like great friends who played, bass, guitar, and added some harmonies from afar. So we weren't in studio together
Hmm.
with those guys. Um, yeah, and it's just been really nice to like keep on releasing music, because sometimes after putting out an EP you feel like there's like a lull, but this was like nice to be able to keep it going and show people like another side of the songs that's a little more intimate. um yeah.
Well, I imagine it translates over to the stage, in more intimate
Yeah,
venues than maybe a full produced, fully
exactly.
backed type of album. Okay.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
which song would you of the EP of the three or four songs you have on there, which one do you like pointing to as your calling card for it?
Hmm. um it's hard because I feel like each one is kind of like represents a different part of me. I think my favorite one though would be Troubles. So the most recent one that I released, um, just because it was like so much of just how I was feeling over the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a really fun time writing the lyrics. Like it feels like a poetry more than a song to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like one of my first loves, writing poetry. Um, yeah, that song just feels very like in the moment how I was feeling over the pandemic, kind of like lost, unsure if I was gonna stay in LA, continue doing music. I was spending a lot of time in the Northeast where my family is, and was just like in heaven in winter time, and really have missed that and being with family and being close by to family.
Mm-hmm.
So I was having sort of like an existential crisis, I guess.
Weren't we all?
Yeah, yes, totally. Um, so that might be my favorite one
Do you
out of all.
find though that with the pandemic and to your point about how that impacted that particular song, do you get a sense that maybe it's going to whether it's drawing from those feelings during that time or the lasting impact moving forward? Do you feel like the pandemic's going to influence your writing more and more in the
Mm,
future? Or do you think that's a few and done type of thing? You get a few songs out of that experience and then you move on to the next
mm.
emotional step.
Definitely feeling the lasting emotional. Yeah, I don't think it's going away. I feel like one of like the big decisions I made over the pandemic was to give music like the full go. And I had been out here doing that. I thought I was, but I feel like I was more just going with the flow and like, yeah, I'm playing music and I'm here, like I'm doing it, but I wasn't really, I don't think putting in that like 100%. And so I think the pandemic was nice because it was like a pause for me to realize, oh, I really want to do this and I want to actually give this a real go.
Mhm.
So since then, that's what I've been doing. And I feel like I'm still writing about like all the same things. Like, what's, is all this going to pay off? What's going to happen? You know, the same questions I was having over the pandemic, like wondering about the future. And that's
Mhm.
kind of what I write about a lot. So I don't think that's going away.
Well, not to scare you, or if it is any consolation, when you get
Yeah.
old like me, those same questions persist. So get used to it.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
So what's the reception been like on the music so far? As you've performed it, as people have heard the EP,
Mhm.
what's been the feedback?
It's been really nice. I think a lot of people relate to, especially Troubles, relate to that pandemic sort of thing. So every time I play it, like I introduce it in that way.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's been nice just because, you know that everyone, we were all feeling those things over the pandemic, but it's nice to know that people are still feeling that because it can seem like everyone's just back to normal. But I think we're all like kind of still struggling to get back to how things were or figure out what things are gonna feel like now moving
Yeah.
forward. Um, yeah, it's been really nice playing these songs, especially playing kind of this new setup with this drummer friend,
Mhm.
and me pretty much. And he just adds like such a cool percussion, like natural feeling to these songs,
Mhm.
which is really nice playing live. Yeah, I mean, I've loved playing these songs. I'm also really excited to like keep putting out new stuff, and I've got some new songs and playing those out too. Um, but yeah, I want to keep sharing these songs and getting them out there, and but so far it's been really really nice.
Cool. So what's your
Yeah.
future plans now that the EP is out? It sounds like you're still doing writing, still putting some stuff together for that. What else is on your plate? What's on your radar?
In terms of releasing music, more stuff.
Releasing music, performing, anything like that.
Mhm. Releasing music basically every month. I've got something coming out, so it's not slowing down. I have a song coming out that's just going to be a single. That's sort of an older one that I recorded before the pandemic, but just never got around to releasing it. And that one's called "Be Okay," and that's sort of about like newly single person, knowing that they're happy they're single, but still struggling with, that feeling of not having someone with you
Mhm.
through life. Um, and then over the fall, I recorded a lot of new music. So I have a 5-song EP that'll
Great.
be coming out all through the fall and summer. And then I'm just trying to play shows, just trying to really like get out there. This Saturday I'm opening for a band, Wallace.
Mhm.
She's from the UK and she's kind of like folk rock, really cool songwriter, and feel pretty honored that I was asked to open for her. I'm
Very
excited for
cool.
that. Yeah.
So hopefully people will watch this interview, like what they see, because I'll embed, a song or so on the launch page.
Cool.
But we'll definitely want them though when they watch this on YouTube when it posts or on the
Mhm.
podcast, they'll want to know how to follow you. What's the best ways to keep track with what's going on with you career wise?
Mhm. I think Instagram is the best way just because I'm on that the most. So
Okay.
it's just my name, Abby Litman.
Okay.
I do have a really cool website.
I saw that. Yeah, very nice.
I really love it. And I have a journal section on there where it's kind of like a blog, but where I share like either just like writings I'm working on or art things I'm doing. So that's kind of a more like personal space.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I would say Instagram if you want that up to date what I'm doing, like every week. That's kind of
All
where you'll
right.
find all that.
Well, I'll definitely put the link to that so people can follow you. And best place to get your EP at, where would you point them to?
Hmm. I would say Spotify or
Okay.
Apple Music probably, but more Spotify kind of.
Okay. That sounds good. Well,
Yeah.
Abby, this was a lot of fun. I look forward to talking to you again in the future. Love your work and been listening to it on a loop there. So I'm very impressed and look forward to interviewing you again in the future. So
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks
let's
for
stay in
having me.
touch. And if you get out towards East Tennessee, give me a heads up so I can catch one of your gigs out this way. Okay.
Yes, I would love that.
Okay. Well, listen,
All
take
right.
care and I'll let you know when this thing posts. Okay.
Thanks, Randy.
All right. Take care. Stay safe. Bye bye.